Cage, 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 cage. Cage! That's right, folks, Nicolas Cage month begins! And we start by looking at Nicolas Cage with superpowers. Now here's the thing, Community this season put forth the question, Nick Cage, is he good or is he bad? And it broke Abed, but I'm completely certain that it won't break me. So all month long, we're going to be looking at nothing but Nicolas Cage movies. And it's going to be fine. It's going to be perfectly great. And I'm very, very excited and not at all scared. You will get 12 actual Nick Cage movies this month. Christ almighty God. We're going to start with Nicolas Cage and superpowers, because the only thing better than just normal Nicolas Cage is Nicolas Cage who can affect the physical properties of the world. The thing that you have to understand about Nick Cage is that Nick Cage has wanted to play a superhero as long as the man could read. His name is actually Nicolas Coppola. He's a nephew of Francis Ford Coppola. He went by his stage name, so he wouldn't be trading off of for the Coppola family name. It's, you know, he just ended up being cast in a lot of Coppola movies. But the Cage, he took Cage from Luke Cage, Power Man. And so he's wanted to play superheroes forever. And mercifully, he never got around to it until Ghost Rider, but we'll get to that. But at different points, he was really trying hard to play John Constantine, the Hellblazer. But much worse, he really was going to be Superman in Tim Burton's Superman Returns, which would have been bad and wonderful. The order of the films will be going in ever-increasing levels of power and/or ridiculousness. Our menu includes Next, The Sorcerer's Apprentice, and Ghost Rider. Alright, so I watched Next this morning. Fucking... Alright, here's the thing about Next. It is a mother... So next, Nick Cage plays Chris Johnson, aka Vegas magician Frank Cadillac, who has the ability to see not 1, but 2 minutes into the future. His own personal future. Now he uses this to do a sleazy magic act and to win minimal sums of money at the casino. But Julianne Moore, a headcanon, more bitter, older Clary Starling, thinks that he should work for the good of humanity and use his power to see 2 minutes into his own future to avert the detonation of a nuclear device on U.S. soil. She spends pretty much the entire movie yelling about this to anybody that's gonna listen. But not in like the kooky crackpot sort of way, but in the bitch you better listen to what the fuck I'm saying way. Which gets a little grating no matter how cute Julianne Moore still is. She is just a fox. So, in case you weren't paying attention, we have Nick Cage with superpowers, psychic abilities, and a nuclear bomb threat. That is a recipe for a great movie, and we spend 40 minutes not getting to it. Director Lee Tamahori takes his time with letting Nick Cage flirt and eventually score with Jessica Biel and see Julianne Moore butting up against her superiors before we actually get to, you know, the movie, which is Nick Cage working to stop a nuclear device from getting detonated. 40 minutes! The movie's only an hour and a half! I don't get this. We got the movie, let's get to the movie. And here's the thing, I don't want to spoil the movie, but about 10 minutes before the end of the movie, something happens. And when it happened, I nearly screamed in rage because I was so frustrated with this goddamn piece of shit of a movie. And then something happened 5 minutes after that that made the previous annoying thing look like Shakespeare in comparison. I couldn't believe it. And I love Nick Cage. Unabashedly and unapologetically. But god damn it, man. Sometimes you push it. And one of those times is fucking Next. This is Mr. Beau. mascot of National Bohemian Beer, Baltimore's own. You will be seeing a lot of this month because I will be drinking a lot of it to deal with these movies. Now, in terms of performance, Nick is pretty subdued, almost to the point where you'd think he was bored with the film. Almost as bored as we are. But he couldn't have been, because at least he was getting paid to do it! There is almost no trace of Elvis in this one. There is one moment where he's dodging a falling car and does kind of an Elvis little knee drop move. And the hairpiece is hideous. It sort of reminds me of like a feather boa type of thing, but attached to his head. I don't know what they were thinking. I don't think that they were thinking. I don't think there was a lot of thinking involved in this movie. It was just very, very, very dull. And for whatever reason, Peter Falk was in it for 5 whole minutes. And we love Peter Falk. But not enough to justify this movie. The Sorcerer's Apprentice, in comparison, was pretty damn good. I was very pleasantly surprised. Granted, not a lot of expectation for this one. But it works, sort of. It doesn't, like, the biggest problem is it doesn't pass the who cares test by the end of the movie. But there's been a lot of fun stunts in between the beginning of the movie and the end. This was the movie in which they took the Mickey Mouse sequence in Fantasia and stretched it out to a feature-length movie, and had the Sorcerer played by Nick Cage, because by and large this was his idea to make this movie. And Mickey Mouse, the part of Mickey Mouse, will be played by Jay Baruchel. And I'm really not I'm still on the fence about Jay Baruchel. I've seen nothing to make me, dislike him. He's funny in a lot of these movies, but I never hear myself say the phrase, "Man, I can't wait to see that Jay Baruchel movie." I don't know. But there's a lot of great action in it. The gags with the magic and the dragon, the steel eagle, Alfred Molina being malicious. I mean, come on. But we love Alfred Molina being the bad guy. We'll watch him be the bad guy in anything, even The Man Who Knew Too Little. I feel bad. Alice Krige has really been typecast as this malevolent older woman, which is unfair because she's quite lovely and a great actress. It's just she's always playing this part. Yeah, I ended up really liking it, in spite of myself. In next, Nick Cage just knows what's going to happen, so you get a lot of really great physical gags of him dodging things easily, like bullets, for example. It's kind of, the special effects, while low-key, are impressive. In The Sorcerer's Apprentice, it's a lot flashier, and the movie handles it really well. The CG in Next was really no good. The CG in The Sorcerer's Apprentice is actually a lot of fun. And Nick Cage does a really, really good Kamehameha through most of the film. Jay Baruchel picks up a little bit of it as well. Again, very little Elvis, but definitely a lot of zany Nick Cage. But what's fun is, again, he's not really overacting it, or even over Nicolas Caging it. He plays the character as if he were 500 years old and the Sorcerer Supreme of the planet Earth, which was nice, because he's just very unflappable and doesn't lose his temper or really freak out, which was interesting to see Nick Cage do. No Elvis. The hairpiece works in this one. I think like the secret is to comb it forward a little bit so it kind of disguises his hairline. As you can see now, I look so much younger and virile just from that little bit. Finally, we have Ghost Rider. And here's the thing. The only thing I like more than Ghost Rider is Ghost Rider 2. But we're going to go with the first one, because it's a much more traditional superhero movie in which we get the origin of the superhero and the tragic beginnings and the triumphant ending. And this is also Nick Cage at his craziest. See, a lot of people hate this movie. I think that if you don't like Ghost Rider, you have failed Ghost Rider and not the other way around. Because half of the movie is Nick Cage doing his crazy Elvis impersonation, which is always a good time. And then the other half of the movie is a guy on a badass motorcycle punching demons in the face with his head on fire. So, if you are not finding something to like in it, time to look at your life and look at your choices. Based on the Marvel comic, directed by Mark Steven Johnson of Daredevil fame, another superhero movie that I like that nobody else does. Johnny Blaze makes a deal with the devil to save his father's life. Deal goes, bad, and as a result, he is cursed to being the Rider. They never really call him Ghost Rider in it. I know they call him Ghost Rider. He calls himself Ghost Rider in the second one, but I think he's just the Rider. Sort of like Blade is the Daywalker. Again, Nick Cage doing crazy Elvis through the whole thing. He's doing the full-on Elvis voice, as made famous in Wild at Heart. And he's basically playing a guy who thinks he's doomed to hell because, he is. And as a result, he's just gone zany. He doesn't drink alcohol. He drinks red and yellow jelly beans out of a martini glass and loves chimpanzees and Karen Carpenter and will get really, really testy if you screw around with any of those things. However, the devil comes and he demands his due. And so Johnny has to become the Ghost Rider, the aforementioned guy on a badass motorcycle with his head on fire that punches demons in the face. And he has to go out and find the demons and punch them in the face. With his head on fire. It's a ridiculous movie, but it's ridiculously fun and over the top and silly because the whole concept is silly. The whole concept of Nicolas Cage with superpowers is silly because he would then become a living god. Can you imagine the kind of crazy shit he would get up to if he could actually just even fly? You would be wandering around the street and then all of a sudden you'd see and then he'd fly off and, probably do an Elvis thing or two. Because he's Nicolas Cage and he's awesome and he's totally not going to drive me insane. I'm going to drive him insane, by proving that he can't drive me insane. Yeah, then it's totally going to work. One of the great things about the order in this triple feature is that because Next is really fucking terrible and the Sorcerer's Apprentice is, passable, by the time you get to the third movie, you could really go for watching Nicolas Cage get set on fucking fire. Because he does. There are scenes where he, in fact, just bursts into goddamn flames, and it's totally deserved at that point. But I love him, and I would never want to see him actually hurt. So, that's Nicolas Cage with superpowers. Next week is going to be even scarier than this week because it's going to be the Nicolas Cage Netflix grab bag. We're just going to pick the movies that are on Netflix of his because, fun fact, none of his movies have ever actually been direct to video. They've always been released in the theater at some point, and we're going to watch them. And by we, I mean me, and then you're just going to watch the mess that I become. So tune in next week for that.